Hey, we've made it to day 10 of the Left Field Dreamers 25-day devotional. So excited that you're still hanging in there. You're still joining with me, and we're going on this crazy journey together. To day 10, abandoned, but not really. Let's jump into the scripture. Jonah chapter 2, verse 5 and 6. The waters surrounded me, even to my soul. The deep closed around me. Weeds were wrapped around my head. I went down to the moorings of the mountains. The earth with its bars closed behind me forever. Yet you have brought up my life from the pit, O Lord, my God. Jonah 2, 5 and 6. What a beautiful piece of scripture. Jonah thinks that he's been abandoned by God. And yet he begins to realize just now that God has been with him all the time. I wonder if you've ever experienced times in your life where you felt like God abandoned you, where you felt like he just left you alone with no help in your life. You know, I remember in 2004 when my mom passed away. And for some reason, I had a really hard time finding God in that season of my life. I couldn't understand why he hadn't healed her from cancer. I couldn't understand why he took my mother, whom I loved so dearly, and he left me honestly with a father that I didn't have a very good relationship with. I couldn't figure out why he had decided that because my life was such a mess, that he wasn't there to help me with it, because I just knew God was supposed to be our ever-present help in times of trouble. And yet I felt abandoned by him. I felt isolated from him, and I felt like when I prayed, nobody heard me. He didn't hear my prayers. I wonder if you've ever found yourself in a situation like that. My guess is you have. But you know what? God is always right there. God is there during the beautiful times of our lives when we're on the mountaintops, and God is there in the valleys when we don't seem to see him. I get asked the question a lot of times, where was God when something terrible happened? And the truth is, God was right there with you. God was right there with the people who were experiencing the bad times. They were just blinded by their own hurt, their own pain, the situation, and it was maybe the situation cried so loudly that they just couldn't hear God's voice. You know what? One of the things I would like to encourage you to do is I would like to encourage you to go back into those situations and ask God to show you where he was, even in the difficult situations of your life. Because what I know is true is he's going to be able to show you exactly where he was. He's going to be able to let you see that even though you felt alone and isolated, that he was right there with you. I'd be curious to know what God would say to you in those situations. I'd be curious to know what he would think about those situations and how that would be so different from what you thought about those situations. Take the opportunity today. Begin to ask God, where was he? Where are you, God? Where were you in those difficult times? And begin to recognize you were never abandoned. You were never left alone on your own. God was always right there. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say. Send me an email, melissa@bridgebuildermm.org. Go to my website, bridgebuildermm.org. Leave us a comment, send me an email from there. Post on my Melissa Zimmerman He Doesn't Waste a Thing Facebook page. Share your story. Do you know that's when we share our stories that other people's lives are enriched and helped? So I want to invite you into the conversation. Tell your story. You felt abandoned and then discovered God was there all along. It will change everything about your life, I promise.